One of the great cities of the Western world, the capital of Austria, Vienna, the grand imperial capital of the Habsburg Empire, the Renaissance gateway leading to the ancient palace, and the treasuries inside, the treasuries of the Habsburgs. Riding along through town on a trolley is one of the great ways to see Vienna. Music will accompany your visit to Vienna no matter where you turn, especially in the many concert halls where there's music nearly every night in the summer. Johann Strauss the Younger composed the beautiful Blue Danube, which has become the signature song of Vienna. The Karlskirche is one of the great architectural landmarks designed by Fischer von Erlach. Peterskirche in the heart of town, right next to our hotel, the Hotel Wandel, monument to Johann Strauss. Did you know there was Johann Strauss the Elder and Johann Strauss the Younger, father and son? Which one composed the Blue Danube and most of the famous waltzes? The younger Strauss. You'll see a lot of Baroque and Rococo arts in Vienna. In a previous episode, we've shown you the wonderful art museum, the Kunsthistorisches Museum, Neo-Gothic City Hall, the Belvedere Palace. Later we'll take you to the Schonbrunn Palace. Today's program is mostly a musical video tribute to that great city of Vienna. The soul of the city is represented by St. Stephen's Cathedral, first built from the 12th century, a towering Gothic landmark right in the heart of town. Soccer tort, anybody? Chocolate cake supreme. And we'll take another look at the Belvedere Palace coming up shortly in the program. It was built as a royal residence for Prince Eugene back in the early 1720s. All this is by way of introduction to the capital of Austria. Let's have a closer look now at Vienna. This is Dennis Callan for World Traveler, reporting from the Belvedere Palace in Vienna, a truly beautiful garden spot you must come see when you're visiting Austria. This is one of the real beauty spots of Vienna. It was occupied by one of the Dukes of Savoy, and he was a very wealthy man. He had 16 palaces scattered around the Austro-Hungarian Empire. This was his main palace, and he was a very important fellow because he helped to defeat the Turks back in the middle of the 17th century. If it wasn't for the Austrian army defeating the Turks at that time, we might all be speaking Turkish today, because that was the invasion by Turkey that was trying to conquer all of Europe. Instead, the Turks were defeated. The Austrians settled into expanding their empire and living the grand lifestyle. It's one of the most impressive Baroque palaces ever constructed. Human-like columns hold up the roof in the entranceway, the Grand Atlantes they're called. Prince Eugene had the palace designed as his residence, but more importantly, as a big party house. He came from a rather decadent background in Paris. We're in the Belvedere Gardens in Vienna, and behind me you see a spectacular view of the city of Vienna. The lower Belvedere Palace is in the background, and behind it, the spires and towers of the old town of Vienna. This is one of the more spectacular park grounds in the city. The Upper Belvedere Palace today is an art museum. You can pay an admission charge to go inside and see it. There are many, many museums in Vienna, and there is one other great palace even bigger than the Belvedere. It's the Schonbrunn Palace. This was the main summer residence of the Habsburgs, built for Maria Theresa. They too have a hall of mirrors. Somewhat in imitation of Versailles, it was constructed during the course of the 18th century. It's got 1,500 rooms, many of which are open to the public on display showing how the Habsburgs lived. Versailles was built for Louis XIV about 100 years earlier and set the style for the other great palaces of Europe like Schonbrunn. Particularly impressive are the gardens around the palace, and they were commissioned by Maria Theresa's son, Joseph II, who reigned from 1780 to 1790, he built that triumphal arch up on the hill. He was an enthusiastic gardener, and he rearranged the gardens in a classical style. The last great emperor, Franz Joseph I, was born here and died here in 1916. We finished our visit, and out front all of a sudden we saw a crowd and some excitement. There's police and armed soldiers directing traffic and camera crews pointing their cameras this way and that way, and everybody waiting in great anticipation of somebody's arrival. And then we found out that Hillary Clinton was coming to visit the palace. So we stuck around for a few minutes, waiting and hoping we'd catch a glimpse, held at bay by the security guards and the paparazzi staking out the place, but to no avail. She showed up and slipped in a back door. So we slipped out and went into the subway and continued on our journeys through the city of Vienna. They have 5 different underground lines. They've got surface trolley cars, they have buses. The public transportation in Vienna is just superb. And one of the main focal points of the transit and the city is the Karlsplatz. Ultra-modern subway, but on top they've preserved the antique station house and turned it into a tea salon. Next door you'll find the Karlskirche, designed by Fischer von Erlach in the 1720s through 1740s. It's somewhat of an homage to a church in Rome designed by Borromini on the Piazza Navona Sant'Agnese, but here von Erlach has gone a few steps further with his splendid Baroque monument, including neoclassical Trajan's columns out front. Another great institution in the city is the Hotel Sacher. It's a 5-star deluxe property right behind the Opera House. Very convenient, if expensive, place to stay. And the most exciting thing about the Hotel Sacher for most visitors is the coffee shop, because here is where you'll find the real thing. The original Sacher torte. Chocolate cake with cream. They also have apple strudel and other kinds of delectable pastries, but it's the chocolate cake that we've come to the Hotel Sacher for. Mitschlag, the white whipped cream. The largest building in town, the Hofburg Palace, was constructed over a 600-year period. The Michaeler Tor is one of the last parts of it built in the 1890s. You see many of these horse and buggies. You can have a ride through town in a rather elegant horse carriage. Your driver wears his bowler hat and explains the sights to you. Here, passing through the courtyard, An der Burg. Massive statues flanking the portals of the Michaeler Tor, as we see it from the Kornmark, the street leading us into the heart of Vienna, and down to the Graben, where we witness a couple of marching bands going past. Marching bands from Japan and from America. St. Stephen's Cathedral, towering nearly 400 feet behind them, makes a grand setting for the band as they wrap it up and head back over to the Hofburg and regroup at the Michaeler Tor. It's a big thrill for these kids to travel so far and bring their instruments to perform in this musical capital of the world, just as it's going to be a big thrill for the students from Highlands Intermediate School in Pearl City. We'll be visiting Vienna, Paris, and London with the band later this year and filming it for you. Notice this tram. It's a trolley running on steel rails set at street level. This is what you call the original version of light rail. Something like is being proposed now for Honolulu and many other modern American cities. It's an old mode of transit that's enjoying a bit of a comeback nowadays, and it's really proven itself here in Vienna. There are a network of trolley tracks that can take you throughout the city, and it makes a very convenient way to get around. It's a smooth, comfortable ride. Taking us along the Ringstrasse, you see some typical storefronts and building facades, many of them dating from the 19th century. The Ringstrasse itself is running along the site of the former medieval wall that went around the heart of the inner city. The wall was torn down in the middle of the 19th century and replaced by this elegant boulevard that goes for 2.5 miles. It's almost 200 feet wide, the Ringstrasse. We'll take a last look at the greatest monument in town, St. Stephen's Cathedral. A Gothic masterpiece. It was constructed in the early 14th century. See the Gothic pointed arches and the rib-vaulted ceiling. There's hundreds of statues and works of art inside St. Stephen's Dome. It's open free to the public every day from 6 a.m. till 10 p.m. They do ask that you don't walk around inside while a mass is being said. It's still an active church. But otherwise, you're free to roam around, take pictures, and enjoy the sights of this magnificent church right in the heart of town at St. Stephen's Platz.